Welcome back, comrades, to this inaugural episode of the third series of Workers and Resources, Soviet Republic. The day has finally arrived, and it is time to jump back into the fray, and I couldn't be more excited to do so. We have a lot of new stuff to play around with, including waste management, a whole new research tree, building demolition, etc. The map we are going to play on is the one you see on the screen right now. It is called New Horizons, and it is made by the same creator who made the Taiga map we used in Season 2. It is a bit more gentle when it comes to elevation changes, and we have more options to move around the map. As for the difficulty settings, well, here they are. I decided to go with a medium starting money. The developers did adjust the hard amount to reflect the new game systems added, but this time around, I am not really interested in having a nail-biting start to the series. We will take things a bit more easy in this one. Apart from that, it is pretty much the same we had in the last series. Water management is off. I did try my best to get used to it between the seasons, and there were times when I did get enjoyment out of it, but there were moments when it was just a pain, especially once I enabled the new demolition mechanic. As for seasons, I maintain that it could be a great system if there was a way to give roads a resistance to snow buildup through spreading salt or gravel over the roads as they are cleaned. We even have the sprinklers at the back of certain snowplows, so there is hope that it might get added one day. Plus, the snow glare makes it difficult to see the white grid while building, so that is also a big negative point against using it. And as always, we are going to play with the day-night cycle off, for visibility reasons. If you watch the video in a dark room, you might be okay with moments of darkness, but not everyone has that luxury, so for the sake of visibility, we will keep the lights on. I also seriously considered disabling the demolition system, since it can be a bit of a pain to get rid of infrastructure no longer attached to buildings, like conveyor belts, but if we pay attention, we should be okay on that front. Before we get started, if this is not your first video from this channel, you already know what to expect. If you want to be kept up to date, please consider subscribing, and if you like what you see, leaving a like will also help letting me know what to focus on. But enough talking, let's get into it. Now, here's the thing. I do have a small knowledge of where some of the resources are on this map. To be more precise, I know the location of a massive oil deposit near the location where we will start. I will try to restrain myself, and only build on it once we have the necessary technologies discovered, but this advanced knowledge is the reason why we're starting here. As a small justification, let's just assume that a neighboring republic did a small geological survey of the area, and discovered the presence of oil nearby, and that is why we are here. We don't have the exact location, just a general idea of where to look. Anyways, let's talk about what's on the agenda for this first episode. Obviously, we will need some way of building things, so we will start with a small temporary construction setup. For now, we will just place a single road going to the customs house. I might still go for a parallel highway later, but right now, there is no reason to do it. Especially since the border buildings are still as annoying as ever, with their inability to allow more than one vehicle to move inside, so there is no reason to have more than one road going into it at the moment. But, we do have a second smaller border crossing nearby, so we do have an option to increase our import-export speeds a little. Also, I know about the mod that lets vehicles move simultaneously. Having to replace the files after every game update is a bit too fiddly for me, so I don't use it. Let's not forget that we will need the vehicles to have a place to refuel, so I also built a free gas station. I was about to start buying the construction vehicles, but you know what? We need buses, and there is no reason to have them this far away from the border. We can move their office closer to the customs houses. In fact, we could do the same for the dumper office, which I might do later, but most of them should be a bit more inland, so they can cover more area. I think we will use this small crossing for the workers, so the buses can access them without having to wait for ages at the big one, while the other vehicles load up with cargo. Next, we might as well go for gravel roads right away, so we will set up a couple parallel service roads along the main one. Alright, we can start buying stuff. We will of course need bulldozers, and we will pair them up with a couple open hole trucks, so they can be carried around faster. Let's not forget about the excavators. Same deal, we get 2, and buy 2 more open hole trucks to move them around. This also takes care of the carrying capacity for some of the building materials. We also got 4 concrete mixers, and 1 covered hole truck for the components. We filled up the rest of the vehicle slots in that office with road cranes. Next are the paving machinery. 1 roller and 1 paver is all we need, and we also gave those a pair of open hole trucks for transport. And in the last office, we will of course need some dumpers. I usually go for the faster ones this early on, but this time, let's give the big boys a try. We can repurpose them in the gravel industry later. We will tell all the offices to only allow machines to be carried around, they cannot go to construction sites on their own, and we can set the big customs house as the source of materials. I would like my bulldozers to be used for spreading gravel on the roads, so we will tell the excavator office not to bother working on roads. Next, we need a way to import some fuel, so let's build a free distribution office. Good thing this version is not gated behind the research. Although, it could be a bit closer to the border. Well, I would like to get started on the terraforming as soon as possible, but the bulldozers are busy building the gravel roads right now. We can also tell the bus office where it can go for workers. And the big queue for fuel has begun. This will take a while, so how about we fast forward through this part. We might as well rush through the road building too, so we can get started on the terraforming. I am using the built-in fast forwarding by the way. If the game is already on max speed, you can press Ctrl and the 1 and 2 keys on the numpad, and it will speed things up a lot. But, I highly advise against using it when you have people living in the Republic. It is somewhat okay to speed up unimportant things, but it does mess with the simulation accuracy greatly, and using it will prevent citizens from satisfying their needs correctly, leading to discontent. Once we have people living in the country, we will never use this again. Anyways, time to get started on the actual terraforming. As you might have guessed, this is where the first town will be. And as usual, I want to have a nice empty area to work with, so we will level out as much as we possibly can. We have 2 hills on both sides, so we could use those for some decorative stuff one day, but let's focus on leveling for now. Next, this little river. We could easily fill it in, and have a nice big empty area to work on, but I kind of like having it around, so how about we widen and deepen it a little, so the riverbed is less visible in certain places. It seems our bulldozers ran out of fuel. Let's wait for them to refill, and we can get back to work. Alright. I think it's time to start thinking about how we will cross this river. For that, we will need to bring both sides to the same elevation, so the bridge won't be too sloped. Unfortunately, one side is much lower than the other, so we need to bring it down quite a bit. Let's just push that white line back a little more, and we can stop with the terraforming. Time to build our first bridge. It's going to be a small one, going over a tiny little river, so a simple little arched one will do just fine. To get the smooth ramp we are looking for, we will use the well-established proximity snapping technique we discovered in the last series, and create a wide ramp, before placing the final road. Okay, I think I just about had it with terraforming for this episode. Let's focus on finishing that bridge. How about we take advantage of that fast forwarding feature to get it done quickly? And this is a good demonstration why using this feature can be dangerous. I was using the faster version, and we had a couple concrete mixers trying to deliver concrete to the bridge, but they arrived empty, because they didn't load anything. Using the slightly less fast version did allow them to load the concrete. But for citizens, even the slower version is dangerous. So once again, as soon as we have even a single citizen living in the country, this feature will not be used anymore. Okay, the pillars are done. Time to build the steel structure. And here come the paving stage. Should be a relatively quick phase of construction. And it is finished. We have the first bridge all done. At this point, we don't need these service roads anymore, so they can go. Plus, we might as well upgrade the road going to the second customs house, so the buses can get around faster. Now, before we get started on the town itself, how about we take care of one of the most basic resources we can do at the start? Crops. We won't even need to have any people around to grow them. We can just set up the farming industry, and start filling up the silos in preparation for the upcoming food and clothing factories. We have this big empty area near the border, and it is pretty much perfect for this. First, let's place down the fields, and leave enough room for the other stuff near the main road. Maybe we should leave a gap between these fields at the top. I suspect we will continue placing fields later, so it would be best to leave room for a road continuing that way. We have 19 fields right now. I tried to squeeze in one more for a nice even 20, but couldn't. Might end up moving the main road a little later. Anyways, time to place the roads between the fields. As you might have noticed, the field entrances are misaligned. The fences are perfect though, so I had to choose between aligning the gates or the fences. I decided the fences are more important to get right. Time to place the main buildings. This time around, I won't worry about using the usual distribution office setup. Mostly because we need to research them. To compensate, we will go for the big farm building right away, and try to make peace with the fact that we will always have a little bit of grain stuck in there. As for the silo, we have these brand new ones. Some of them even have a built-in train station platform for loading the grain. Very handy. For now, I placed it here, which is highly inefficient, since it blocks the rail tracks. I will remember them in a bit, and place them in a more sensible location. Next, the fertilizer storage. It's basically a waste dump building, only we will use it for importing things, instead of taking them away. For now, we will just use solid fertilizer, instead of the liquid one. Well, that position is a no-go unfortunately. Once I remember the importance of the build and rail tracks, the silo and the waste dump will switch places. Anyways, time to give this place the power it will need. It's mostly for the benefit of the farm building, so the vehicles inside can refuel using the built-in gas storage. And noticing the customs house rail tracks finally made me remember the silo's platform. Yeah, the waste dump will need to move. To avoid boxing ourselves in the future, we should lay down a little bit of the rails around the customs house, so we know not to do it. For now, let's just assume that we will keep using the usual 150 meters long trains we are used to, so we can measure the distance for this export platform. As usual, we should upgrade the farm roads to gravel at the very least. The machinery won't benefit from it, but the delivery trucks most certainly will. I will still leave the actual driveways for the fields as dirt, those are short enough not to bother. In the last series, the big farming area didn't really have enough time to shine, so let's use the same name again. Agroprom. And I think we can safely fast forward through this once more. It seems upgrading the road between the bus office and the customs house disrupted the pickup assignment. Let's reassign it, so it can deal with the shorter road segment constructions. Having access to this fast forwarding feature is extremely convenient for me. I can create time lapses without actually having to speed up the footage more than I already do. I just wish it wasn't so dangerous to use with citizens, otherwise I would use it all the time. Oh, right. Let's not forget to add the tracks for the silo too. We definitely don't want to box that one in. Alright. Time to sort out the fertilizer deliveries. For this, we will once again use a distribution office. Doesn't really matter where we put it, it's temporary anyway. We just need a dump truck to pick up the fertilizer at the border, and drop it off in that waste storage next to the farm. We can also tell the fuel office to deliver gas to the farm. But, we need to be careful, we don't want to deliver liquid fertilizer. The solid one is quite enough. As for the farming machinery, we will need to experiment with the perfect amount, especially since different models have different speeds. For now, let's just go with 4 tractors, 4 harvesters, and 8 trucks to move the harvests back to the silo. And since we have proper buildings at this point, we can no longer do without a fire station. We will need to put out fires, so let's build one. For this place, a small one will be perfectly fine. I also told the farm to only bother cultivating fields with at least 100% fertility. The solid fertilizer should be able to deal with that quite easily. And let's not forget to import power at this point. We need electricity to operate the fuel pump in the farm building. I think a single big fire truck will be enough for now. But, we will need workers for it to operate, so it's time to set up a temporary bus line, which will bring in workers from abroad to staff the building. I think 2 small microbuses will be enough to take care of it. And while I was fast forwarding the firehouse construction, the tractors already managed to sow a couple fields, and the crops are already growing. Very good. All this progress, all thanks to the fast forwarding feature. I didn't want to leave things at this, so I decided to spend the last couple minutes trying to place a couple roads in town. Thankfully, we can safely adhere to the grid this time around, so let's do just that. Don't worry, this is just for the main roads. I would like to make sure we create a road network that is easy to manage. The smaller roads and the buildings themselves will be mostly placed without grid snapping. Basically, what I had in mind is that we will have the roadside footpaths one grid tile away from the roads, and we will use the grid snapping to ensure we have the appropriate spacing for them. At least that's my aim. Anyways, I did start placing some out-of-town infrastructure already, like the garbage incineration plant, but it will be a bit too close for comfort, so it won't stay there. We should also set up a local firehouse. The one at the farm is unlikely to reach this far. This is where I discovered that the incineration plant is too close to the town. I would feel better if it was farther away, so let's just demolish it for now. We can find a better place for it later. But, my alarm clock was getting really loud at this point, so I think it's time to finish messing around. In the next episode, I would like to get started on the town itself. We will of course need the usual amenities and services we are used to, but we will also need to sort out the garbage collection, the distribution center for the consumer goods, set up a train station and maybe an internal commuter bus network, etc. If you've seen this game before, you already know what to expect. Taking care of our citizens is an involved and complex affair. I usually like to have service centers around residential neighborhoods, but I might try to have bigger apartment complexes this time. I will still try to have everything in walking distances, and only move workers to the local train station, and having access to the new higher speed footpaths should help with that quite a bit. Anyways, if you haven't done it already, I'd love it if you subscribe to the channel, and leaving a like would also let me know that this video was worth making. If you feel that it was good enough, and you can afford it, please consider going to my Ko-fi page, which you can find in the description, and donate an amount that you feel is appropriate. And if you did like what you've seen, there should be links to some of my other videos and playlists on the screen. Thank you for your support, and I'll see you in the next one.